comic books, movies, TV, and more. Nerds are everywhere. It's time to assemble! It's Nerds United.
Hello and welcome to a brand new and, dare I say, very special episode of Nerds United here on the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network. That's because we're going to be joined by a very special guest. That's two uses of the word special in a very close proximity of time, and I'm not comfortable with that. But I'm your host. My name is Greg Mahochko, and joining me, he is the co-host of the year, and you know him and you love him, and that's Michael Luther. Hello, Mike.
I thought you were going to go with, and that's Mike Special Luther.
Oh, that'd have been good.
Get another special there. By the way, Greg, I hope you know, and I hope you do this too. Whenever the theme song comes on, I mouth the words and I get very animated with it. You can't see me though because the graphics are on.
So I do similar,
good,
especially for like the 5 Heart podcast, which we use the same service, so it works the same. But it's got a bit of a drum solo at the end. So oftentimes going do 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 do.
Okay.
So how are you? How's your week been?
I am fine. I have a quick Taco Bell story for you.
I had Taco Bell last night, so that's very timely.
Okay. This was, I don't think last night, I think the night before last or something. I don't remember. But anyway, so I go to the Taco Bell, right? Go through the drive-thru, and I say, yes, I need some chicken chipotle melts, chicken quesadilla, and a large soda. Right? And the guy goes, okay, so I got the chicken chipotle melts, and I'm sorry, what else did you need? I go, large soda. And I told him what kind. I forget what kind I had though.
It should be the Baja Blast. If you're,
I think it was, to be honest with you. I think it was. By the way, I don't normally get soda, but I got this time. It has nothing to do with the story though. Regardless. Okay. And then I was like, yeah, large Baja Blast and the chicken quesadilla. He goes, okay, so I got the Baja Blast. I'm sorry, what did you say? And now I'm just confused because I'm like, I go,
it shouldn't be that difficult, sir.
I'm thinking to myself, did I say it wrong? Do you have these? I think it's called like a chicken quesadilla. I might be saying that wrong. I don't know. And he goes, oh no, yeah, we have it. I'm like, that's what I fucking thought you had it.
So, around my house, we call it a quesadilla just for fun.
Maybe that's what he was thinks is that, but I don't know. So anyway, I pull up, exchange of money, everything, and then get the food and stuff. And I pull out, and because I'm fat, I don't feel like waiting the 2 minutes it takes to get to my house. I reach in the bag and I pull out what I think is the chicken chipotle melt, and I take a bite out of it. It's thinner than I'm used to, and I'm like, take another bite, and it's just cheese basically. I'm like, did they not? Did
they give you a little cheese roll up?
Well, so I'm like, did they not put the chicken in there? I'm like, what? And then there's no chicken in this one. Yeah, basically a cheese roll up or whatever it was. It wasn't bad, And then I reach in the bag, so I'm like, maybe let's make sure they didn't mess up the rest of the order. And I'm reaching around for the chicken quesadilla, which you can find at the bottom. And I didn't even want to eat. I just want to know it was there. Can't find it. So I'm like, okay, so they forgot my chicken quesadilla. No big deal. And then I grab like another one. I think this is a bigger one. And I'm like, okay, this has to be the chicken chipotle melt. And as I unwrap it, and then I go to eat it, and it has lettuce on it, which, number one, I don't eat, and two, chicken chipotle melts don't have lettuce. It's literally just chicken and chipotle sauce. And I think there might be cheese. I'm honestly not sure. But I was like, oh, God damn it. So there was, I don't know, 5 of whatever they were. Something with lettuce and tomato, and I'm like, and normally I don't, and I've done this before where I've just like thrown the bag away and just not even going back there. But I'm like, no, I got to go back because one, I was hungry, and two, I don't have the type of money where I can just throw food away.
Right.
So I go back there and I go inside. I'm really nice, and luckily I had my receipt, and I said, hey, and I went to the person there, and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. I was like, there must have been some kind of mix-up. I was like, here's my receipt. Here's what I ordered. But I was like, that's not in the bag. And then, another lady comes from the back, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I think we gave your order to somebody else, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, it's no big deal, And she's like, oh, we'll make it fresh right now. And there was probably 3 other people inside with me, kind of like waiting for their food. And so I'm like, yeah, that's no problem. And I leave, not to leave, but I just step back and I'm kind of just standing there. And then 2 other people get their food, they leave. And the one guy, he's there and he's like, hey, is somebody gonna make my food? And and he's about my age, a little bit older. And the lady's like, I'm sorry, what? Because it was like a bunch of teenagers and then one like older lady, you know. And she's like, I'm sorry. And he goes, there's been like 3 or 4 people that have come and went since I ordered. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, what was your name? And he told him her name, which I don't even realize they take down names at Taco Bell, but whatever. Maybe they do on the inside. And so she's like, oh, he had your food. And he's like, oh, and then he goes, take it. She's like, no, let me make more. And I by the way, I didn't tell him that I had eaten the cheesy, whatever it was. I was for free. But that guy was pissed. I would just, whatever, you know, like, it's Taco Bell. What do you expect? But he looks at me and he's like, kind of gives me this look. And I know he's about to start saying something like, I can't believe they want $15 an hour or whatever, you know. And I just shut that shit down immediately. I was just like, he looks at me, gives me a look. I was like, it's no big deal. I go, it wasn't bad intentions, you know. They're learning. And then he knew he wasn't going to get in, like we're buddies and we can argue together.
Right.
So then he just like, I think the lady came out, gave us like free. Like I got like 4 or 5 free coupons for free tacos. Which, yeah, that's cool. Like I said, I was fine. It's like whatever. But he did not say one word. She gave me the coupons. I was like, oh, thank you so much. That's really kind of you. Didn't say a word to her. And then even when he got his food, she's like, I'm so sorry. She's like, go ahead and check and make sure it's right. And he just grumbles through it, then closes it up, leaves. And then she's like, I'm really sorry. She's like, they got to be more careful back there. I was like, whatever. It's Taco Bell. It's not
things happen.
You know, it's things happen.
It's not a 4-star Michelin restaurant. It's
So I eventually got my food, and I got, like I said, free. I think 4 or 5 coupons for free tacos or something. So it was good.
I feel like the Taco Bell people almost handed me the wrong order yesterday, because they were like, I paid through the app because like Taco Bell's got so many options that I just, you know, I don't want to sit there and clog up the drive-through line. So I usually just order ahead, and you know that when I say I've got a mobile order. Oh, what's your name? My name is Greg. Oh, pull up to the window. And then so I'd already paid through the app, and they said, your total's whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. And
I was like, she said, you paid through the app. I paid through. She's like, yeah, I could see the look on your face. Like you were very confused. And then tonight, so for it's Friday, we usually do pizza on Friday because nobody really wants to do anything. Garrett opted for Domino's.
Okay.
And they had a special, like 2 medium, 2 topping pizzas and the garlic twists. And we ran to Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois. And we were sitting there like it had said it's going to take a half hour. So we figured we knew we had at least 10 minutes of sitting in the parking lot. And then all of a sudden I look at the little pizza tracker and it says it's ready. So I around the building. I said, hey, Greg M with the pickup. Oh, okay. And they said, oh, it's coming up now. Okay. Now was like another 5 minutes of sitting there at the window. And then again, it was 2 pizzas and the garlic twists. And they handed me 4 boxes. And I looked down and I was almost just to turn out onto a belt line.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, nobody's behind me. I'm going to back up and I'm going to park. And I took both of the smaller boxes in because one had the garlic twist, one had the Parmesan bites.
Okay.
And Parmesan bread bites. And I took them and I said, y'all gave me 2 boxes. I think I only needed to have 1 here. And the guy was like, oh, no, we had extra Parmesan bread bites. Enjoy. I was like, okay.
I would not have gone back in.
I just wanted to do it upright. So she's like, thanks for coming back in. I said, you're welcome. And she sent me away with the bread bites. So we had double appetizers.
Nice. When I brought the Taco Bell bag back in, like she was gonna make the new food, and she's like, "You can have this." I'm like, "No, I don't want it." And she's like, "Well, we're just gonna end up throwing it away." And I was like, "Well, give it to the people in the back order. I don't care, you know." And but I was thinking to myself, if I would have liked it, then I would have came back. Like, it was like, it was just regular. Well, if it was like tacos with no lettuce and tomato, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Okay. I'll eat it. But so. Anyway, comic books.
And we have a special guest waiting in the green room, and we're going to keep him there.
We're going to about comic books. Let's bring him in. Let's start talking. You know what we're talking about.
Oh, are we going to table comic books just till next week?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me put the stack of comic books. I got a really unique selection at Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois today. So, yes, I don't know if you know this, Mike. In fact, I know you know this because you told me about it. But a couple of weeks ago, Netflix dropped a docuseries called Wrestlers. And it was about Al Snow and his group of wrestlers at Ohio Valley Wrestling. And you know this. Maybe some of our listeners don't, but right here on the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network at Cheap Pop, we have our very own wrestling podcast called My 123 Cents, the podcast with Kevin Hunsperger. We are honored and truly it is amazing to have the host of My 123 Cents, the podcast, joining us here on Nerds United, both on podcast and YouTube form. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Kevin Hunsperger. Kevin, hello. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yay.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm just glad that Chad Smart guy. This ain't the Greg and Chad Power Half Hour or whatever that show was. Y'all doing that anymore? What's going on with that?
We haven't done that in like a year and a half.
I jest.
And that's fine because I'm doing a lot of shows.
I think you're only doing 2 shows right now.
I'm doing 3. I'm doing 2 for Coronation.
Oh.
And I'm producing another one for them. So
busy fella.
But that's okay because that's the show that pays $100 every month.
Not bad.
There you go.
And you know what? Don't tell them this, but I do it for free. Kevin, how'd the Lions do tonight?
Oh man. First loss of the season, 29-28.
Ooh.
Who'd
nail
play?
biter. Harrisburg, actually, which Harrisburg came in 5-1, and 4-1. We came in 5-0, and man, it was so close. But we've had a lot of close games this season, and eked it out at the literally at the very end. So we were optimistic we were going to do it again for this game, but it just wasn't meant to be. So we're now 5-1 on the season, so still respectable.
Oh, yeah. That is all right. So you are a cheer dad.
I am.
And very soon you will have an empty house.
Thanks for reminding me of this. Yes. Probably so, yes.
I guess that's not a good thing, or just take some adjustment. I'm taking it.
Adjustment because, for 23, almost 24 years now, there's been at least 3 of us here, so
right.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, but yeah, she has applied, and no spoilers, but it does look like 99% that she is going to be going away. So nice. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, nice for her. Understandable for you.
Yeah.
I look. The reason I bring this up is, Kevin, I sent you a message via the channels probably within the last week or so, because I came across a video of a wrestling match in Japan that was Kenny Omega and like a 9-year-old girl.
Yes,
I've seen that.
Yes.
Like a full match, and it's Kenny Omega, so he's an internet darling, I guess, and no backlash, no heat. But I remember, half a dozen years or so back when your daughter got involved in a wrestling angle, and the internet was not happy with you. And my message to you was something along the lines of, I don't want you to get any more shit from the internet for this, because of this Kenny Omega match. So just want you to know, man, power to the people in solidarity, my brother.
There you go. Thank you.
I don't know.
Yes.
If I might have just appropriated that. And I'm
By the way, Kevin, what are you drinking?
This is called Alex Mixner Polka, and it is a Pilsner. I got this. I've had it for a little while, but I've had a couple of them. So I thought, you know what? I need a liquid refreshment before we get started here. And so what are you guys drinking?
I am having an Oktoberfest from Schlafly.
Oh, nice.
Yes. I am having water from my fridge.
Well, that's up next. So
yeah, I was gonna say I have that here too.
I have to be up early tomorrow. Which
got that marketing thing.
Yeah, I got the last farmers market for my wife and her homemade crocheted goodies.
Oh yeah, cool.
So I don't know, Kevin. You haven't requested any wrestle buddies, so I don't have any of those. I can ask her. She could probably do
monkeys. We need some jittery monkeys.
That's what I said.
I've mentioned that to her, but you see how far that's gotten me.
Yeah. I got you.
I ain't got the dough to make it happen. So
now, guys, we can sit here talking about crocheting all day.
No, we can't.
and trust me, guys. I know we want to. I don't know. I know the fans want it, but I want to talk about wrestlers because I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if I was the first one. I think I watched it before Greg did.
You did. You told me about it, sir.
Yeah, because
that's just the kind of guy you are.
I wanted, and I actually told Greg. I said we got to get Kevin on because I kind of want Kevin's opinion because you were in Stride Pro Wrestling, which unfortunately is no longer around.
Yeah,
and that is unfortunate. But I'm hoping you watched Wrestlers, by the way, or this.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like
I was actually watching it. I think up to episode 6 when Greg had messaged me last week and asked me about doing the show. So, and I have since finished it. But yeah, I watched it for a couple of reasons. One, the obvious one is because I'm a wrestling fan, but. Right. 2, just seeing some of the trailers and some of the stuff that they were putting out on social media. I know a handful of the guys that were they were in the highlights, but they weren't like featured, if that makes sense. So, getting to see those guys and I've never been to an OVW show and I've always wanted to go. I think Chad has gone to a couple. And then, of course, my friend Tyler and I know a handful of guys from Stride who are on the roster and wrestle there consistently. So I wanted to watch it and support them. And it ended up being, like Mike said, I was, I wasn't sure what to expect because sometimes these wrestling documentaries can go sideways. And this was not, I'm glad that they didn't put it like to a reality show vibe to it. It was just more of a, hey, this is it. I didn't feel like it was
scripted,
scripted, rehearsed, and crammed down our throats. So I was pleasantly surprised, and I hope that this kind of gives OVW a bit of a bump, and we see more from them.
Specifically to that notion of the type of show that it was versus the type of show that it could have easily been. Today I listened to, and I don't usually, I listen to 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, but I don't usually listen to the strictly business side, but it was Eric and Al Snow, and they were talking about wrestlers.
Cool.
And the main focus was like, they want to make sure this was not a reality show. It's something that was, unscripted television, but definitely more of a documentary type of approach. And the director was the same guy who did Last Chance U for Netflix. And there was another one that was prominent that I unfortunately can't remember. I oddly enough, Kevin, I think it was something that was cheer related.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember but yeah, it was one of those. There are actually several, but yeah, and we watched some of them. So yeah, I don't remember which one this particular director was associated with, but yeah, you're right about that.
But it was definitely a fly on the wall. Cameras are not, again, the example they used is Kardashians. I don't really even have an idea of, because I've never watched the Kardashians. I've never watched the Kardashian. Mike, I can't even name all the
By
Kardashians.
the way, everybody, Kevin, I don't know if you listen to the podcast a lot. Literally, like every time on the podcast, he's like, "We got to finish because the Kardashians is on." You know,
That's not true. But this was definitely the producers were there. Obviously in the crew and everything, and Al Snow was very complimentary of everybody, and they're waiting to see if there's going to be a second season. He said, at one point we were, had 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and we were trending for like 2 weekends or something after the show came out. So a lot of positive buzz around the show. Unlike you guys, I hadn't seen a trailer for it. Didn't know it existed until Mike said, "Hey, you need to check out this thing on Netflix." What's the name of that service?
I believe it's called Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Called Wrestlers, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And honestly, had it not been for Mike's recommendation, I probably wouldn't have watched it. And that's even with my appreciation for all that Al Snow has done for the business, and for my appreciation for what OVW has been, especially as like a developmental territory back in the day for WWE. And we always talk about, I say we always talk about, this isn't a wrestling podcast, but you always hear about that great class of 2002. It had John Cena, Dave Bautista, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin. I mean, 4 of those guys are Hall of Famers. Yeah. And then you have Shelton Benjamin, who's a world-class athlete too. So,
by the way, to be fair, we do talk about wrestling quite a bit on this podcast, and we'll talk about it a little bit. And then it'll be like, we should let Kevin actually talk about this.
Yeah.
So actually, with OVW, when I lived in Louisville, which was around 2004, 2005. That I believe is when they were when they were feeder company for WWE at the time. And quick story, I actually met Al Snow at a gas station.
Oh, really?
Yes, I don't. It was like I said, maybe 2004, but sometime 2004, 5, 6, 7. I can't remember. And but I don't know where I was going, but I was at a gas station. I saw this guy. I'm like, that looks exactly like Al Snow, and he was just pumping gas with a couple other people right next to me, and I was just like, "Hey, are you Al Snow?" He goes, turns around, yeah. And I'm like friendly, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm a big fan." I'm glad he didn't say like, what's your favorite match? Because I wouldn't have been able to, name one. But he's like, "Oh, I appreciate it." And then he just reaches out his hand, shakes my hand, and probably could have literally broke my hand if he wanted to. Yeah. And then just, went inside or whatever. Something like, "Oh, cool."
Mike, did you look him in the eyes seductively and say, "What does everybody want?"
Well, that's oddly enough, though, that's how I greet most people. It just worked out that was Al Snow that time.
Yeah.
Another thing, like with the documentary that I found surprising, but it really shouldn't have been, is kind of how much money they were losing like every month.
Yeah,
I could get the numbers wrong, but I want to say they said it was like $40,000 a month, $40,000 a month they were losing or something. It was something insane. Where I'm like, how is it still business?
It was an insane number, and I think that is one of those things that with pro wrestling, or I spent 20 plus years in the TV news business, and I think people have this preconceived notion that because you're on TV, that equals big paydays, and that's not the case. And with wrestling, it really, I didn't. I worked with Tyler Hatton here with Stride Pro Wrestling, and we were very, very, very low key. We rented a building, and unfortunately, the building that we were renting, it went from $600 one month to the next month they jacked the rent up to $800, and then on top of that, this was when the whole Ameren situation here in Southern Illinois was going out of control with heating or cooling the place. And so then we had that expense, and it's insane how much you spend. You don't think about the overhead, the utilities, the rent, the wrestlers, the insurance to make sure that, if somebody does get hurt, that you're covered. And then especially when you're in an arena like, OVW has, or when we were doing Stride, there are only so many people that can fit in there, and you have to fill it first. But then even if you fill it, you're still sometimes not even going to break even. So it becomes a very complicated situation, and you don't want to lose money. And luckily, fortunately for Stride, we never lost money, but we never made money either. It was like kind of a break-even situation month after month. But with TV production and all that, and I appreciate the fact that they wanted to stay true to we want to go live every week and keep that element going. Kudos to them for that, because they could have cut that corner and saved some cash, but I think it does make them unique, and it's one of the few, maybe the only outside of AEW and WWE that goes live consistently, even though it's not nationwide or worldwide, but they're still on TV there, and I think that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
lots of things that I want to touch on. First of all, Kevin, you said people assume that when you're on TV, you're making money hand over fist.
Yeah,
and you said that's not the case, but we see the wrestling figures behind you.
Yes.
And as Conrad Thompson says famously, you can't hide money. So that's one. Secondly, you said that Stride, the increasing cost of rent, the power, things like that. And you, and I say this tongue in cheek, I know you didn't necessarily like you stepped away, prior, but I really would have imagined that you'd have been like the band on the Titanic, just playing as it went down.
And I walked away when Tyler walked away, and there was no hard feelings or anything. It was just 7 years. It was time to see if someone else could have a run with it, and it didn't end up being as fruitful as we had hoped, and so it was time. It was time.
You also said that Stride never lost money, but they never made money. But what they did do is they donated a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that part can't be underscored or understated.
Yeah. And I don't know how other wrestling companies do it, but a lot of you see promotions do these benefit shows and whatnot. And how it worked with Stride is, the group that's raising the money, a school or church or whatever, pays a flat fee. I think it was $1,200, and that covers, transportation of getting the ring, getting everything there. And it does, some of the wrestlers do take a payment that night. But then they sell the tickets, and then whatever they choose to sell the tickets for, it's straight up profit then after that for them. And so, some of these schools were making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on these fundraisers. So over the course of the 7 years, Stride raised over $100,000 for different, whether it was storm victims, cancer patients, schools, and churches and whatnot. So there is money to be made in that capacity, and I think it's easier to convince a group of soccer moms to come and watch a wrestling show when it's benefiting their kid's soccer team, and they don't have to shell out $100 for this cost, and instead I'll pay a $10 ticket, and I'll go sit and watch wrestling for a couple of hours and have some fun. So, and I think that's the thing with wrestling, even though not everybody's quote unquote into it, we're not fans. I think someone could come in off the street and watch it and be entertained. And it's just a night of entertainment. It's a night of fun. You don't have to necessarily know the story to really understand it. Although storytelling, especially long-term with TV, I think helps. And that's where OVW, I think, benefited with wrestlers, because it introduced me, like I said, I knew a handful of those folks, but, Hollywood, for example, is one that I hadn't heard of. And I understand now that she may or may not have had or is about to have a tryout with WWE. So I think this opened some doors for the talent as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, she was going, from what I read, she was going to have a tryout, but then it got pulled because of medical reasons. So I don't know what that means. I interpreted that as they were going to give her a drug test, and she was not going to pass it. But I have no clue. Well, honestly, I hope it's that, not something else like serious.
Right.
Sure. And what going back to that Strictly Business episode I was listening to today, they have a pay-per-view scheduled OVW, pronouns pal, for October that Haley J had to back out of because she's going to be down doing some dates with AEW at that time.
Oh,
so
okay.
one door closed, another opens.
Yeah.
But, kind of going back to that weekly television, you're right. They AEW, WWE are the only ones, and they didn't do live shows during the pandemic, but they still had like best ofs and clip shows and things like that to keep relevant. But you mentioned the Louisville, they're on a few stations around Kentucky, but as Mike told me, they're also on Fight TV. They're on some smaller networks. I remember like Ring of Honor back in the day used to be on Sinclair. So hit and miss in various things. But so OVW has a few of those. They are also up in Canada. Al Snow said they're in over 1 million homes. So it's just do people know about it?
Yeah,
I'm curious. Go ahead.
No, good.
Mike, you may remember this, or Greg from the show. I'm curious whether OVW is paying to be in those markets and being on those platforms, or like we've seen, kind of the evolution with WWE or WWF back in the day. They had this slick little show put together, and TV stations were clamoring for it. They were actually willing to pay for it. And AEW, that's kind of I think one of the ways that WWE kind of blazed that trail is with television rights. And, they're a multi-billion-dollar company now because of that. And I think AEW, with TNT, obviously TNT and Turner Broadcasting has faith in them and adding shows and whatnot. So, that could be one of the reasons why they were losing so much money, is if they're actually paying to be on those TV stations and those platforms. I remember back, 10, 12 years ago when All American Pro Wrestling was here in Southern Illinois, and Chris Hagstrom, who was running that, was paying WSIL to put the show on every other week. And it was a bi-weekly thing. And then the other week it would go on to YouTube. But that eats up a lot of money too. You're paying talent, but then you're also paying to be on TV. So, and, for wrestler, this is part-time work for them, or they have a full-time job. They have a family. As we saw some of these people, these characters we came to love, they're working and doing their 9 to 5 and then doing the wrestling thing. And it becomes difficult to promote wrestling and sell wrestling and do all that when it's not being as fruitful as your 9 to 5 job is.
Yeah, I don't know if they said on the documentary or docuseries if they're paying or not. I have seen 2 episodes now of OVW. Like I said, it's on Fight, and it's on the free version of Fight because I wasn't going to pay. I say this with the utmost respect, but I don't see many television channels going, yes, we want this. Yeah. Right now. Now, granted, it's done so good on Netflix that might be a selling point. Mm-hmm. There's you come to whatever channel and see the top rated Netflix series, and put that on there, because and here's the thing, and it's just they don't have the money that WWE or AEW has, so you can only expect so much. They do have some good wrestlers though. And I like, so we mentioned the storylines before, and technically you don't need to know the storylines, but man, it sure helps if you know who you're cheering for, and because I remember going down this, years and years ago when was it Cape Con, whatever it was? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the wrestling show there, and it was my first independent wrestling show I'd been to, And it was really fun, but I didn't know the chants that everybody else is doing, and the music would start, and they'd be like, "Oh, boo!" And I'm like, "I guess that person's a bad guy. I don't know, Yeah. So it does help, but I don't. I'd still check out an episode of OVW if you want. It's on Fight TV, and I would not mind going to an OVW show because tickets, by the way, are only $15.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So we may have to do a Jittery Monkey road trip.
There you go.
To OVW sometime.
Yeah. It's not that far.
On a Thursday night.
Thursday night?
Let's do it.
My first 2 Thursdays of the month are booked. Just as a Just kidding.
Okay.
If we wait until next summer, I have Fridays off in the summer. So
okay,
go.
nice. Yeah, and by the way, I think the Netflix series is helping because I think I want to say their September yesterday's was sold out. I saw
that. Yeah.
In fact, not entirely sure when the Strictly Business that I listened to today was recorded, but Al said, like they have been building. I'm sure it's a mix of the stories that they've been telling and the success of the series. But he said, not only did we sell it, we were turning people away at the gate.
Yeah.
Which,
wow. That's
you
awesome.
You almost wonder, like, maybe pre-sell them tickets for next week. Then make sure they have a spot.
Yeah.
True.
I don't know how the business side of that works, but it was. I tell you, for me, that it was a show that was out of left field. I at times, I definitely have the individuals. When you're watching a docuseries like this, you don't really care about their wrestling personas. At least I don't. So I don't care if Hollywood Haley J wins or Mr. Pectacular or anything like that. But you get to really start to root for the individuals. The champ who lost in the finale to Cowboy James Storm, Mahabali Shera.
Oh yeah.
I was like really cheering for that guy. He'd been in NXT. They said and had a cup of coffee at that level, but now he's like, this is my life, and he could have, as they say in the industry, gone boo-boo faced when found out he was going to drop the title that night. But he has a lot of faith in Al Snow, and so I feel like that's reciprocated to an extent, and then his success will be returned tenfold. So, it was guys like that. You cheer for. Kevin, I'm with you. There was one in particular that I recognized from some of those CCW shows. I can't remember. It's like Salvador. I don't know. He's like the Dark Angel or something like that. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Help me out.
His name is. Was it Damon?
Yes.
Yeah. He was in there, and then there was a quick clip with Dexter Roswell and.
I didn't see Dexter in there.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like, and I would, if they wouldn't have screenshotted it and posted it, I probably, because it's like episode 6 or 7. It's like when they're celebrating and everybody's happy backstage, and Bo Sawyer is back there with him as well.
Oh, shoot!
And so it goes by quick, but yeah, it's and then I saw Brandon Espinoza, Espy. But Damone, I think he's the fallen, and I'm terrible with this, but yeah, he's associated with Cape Championship Wrestling. I think he may have actually come down a Stride show once or twice as well. I think, if I remember correctly, he's from the Kansas City area, so he drives. It's quite a haul for him, going out there to OVW to do that. If he still lives in Kansas City, yeah.
If it's all right, so I finally found out the right spelling. Damone Solavino, the Nephilim is what he goes by. So, and he's been on I think AEW a little bit too. He's had some maybe dark matches or matches on dark, that type of thing. So yeah. And good for all those guys. It's when I broke into radio 20 years ago, I was doing high school radio, and I just thought the natural progression of my career was going to be, all right, I'll do high school for a few years, and then I'll do small college, then I'll do minor league, and then I'll do bigger college, and then I'll be in Busch Stadium. Or, it's Heinz Field. It was Heinz Field, for the Steelers. I just thought that was going to be my natural, that's going to be how my career was going to go. By the time I was this age, if I would have stayed in radio, I'd be the voice of the St. Louis. Obviously that didn't happen, but there are stages, just like in Major League Baseball, where you get drafted and then you start in single A ball, double A, triple A, etc. I mean, there are not, unless you're even Randy Orton spent time at OVW, but unless you're a name, unless you are. I don't want to say like Dennis Rodman. I feel like that's a bad example, but coming from somewhere else in the sports world where you're scooped up immediately and going to the NXT Performance Center, like you have to quote unquote pay your dues. And so it's kind of nice to see, this group of men and women paying their dues in this regard. And I'll tell you, I enjoyed the series, but man, that death match between mom and daughter, that is definitely not my cup of tea. Mike, what'd you think about that?
I'm not a fan of the death match just in general, but everybody, they're whatever, they have their own thing they like. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it. You know what? I after watching the series, this is what I realized. I want every sporting event to have like cinematic moments, like. I'm not a huge sports fan except for like MMA and stuff like that. So like baseball, if you take baseball and you give it the final, I don't say final, but like the last episode, Al Snow match treatment, it would be great. Because like, honestly, like and again, I love Al Snow. We've already said that I'm a big fan of his. We've already established that on this podcast. But if you were to just watch that match, I mean, he's 60 years old. Like the tag team match he had, it's probably going to be okay. But when you add slow motion, when you add the music to it, when you add like the go back and like put in clips of his, WWE matches, then it looks amazing. Then I'm like on the edge of my seat, right? And like, yeah, go out, go. So
now, when you said cinematic match, I thought you were talking about the match. It was like the drag him to hell. That and that was, I mean, obviously WWE did similar stuff, and I think TNA, I guess it would have been. I think because it was that was Broken Matt Hardy, right?
But also in WWE, I think they did it during the pandemic. They had I think that was one of the Undertaker's last match was like a cinematic whatever match.
Was that him and AJ Styles?
Yep.
Yeah. But you also had like the John Cena and Bray Wyatt. That type of match. So yeah, I mean, it was, but again, you can mask certain things. Yeah, like I just thought it was well done that we have all this that's pre-recorded. Obviously the audience can't really expect that it's live, and then they come tumbling out through the curtain. Oh my gosh, But it was fun to see all the behind the scenes stuff and how they put all that together. It was again the whole thing. I mean, the whole series was well done, and you can tell that Al really wants things to succeed. One of the more jarring moments for me to watch, because it's not something that I'd ever witnessed, and not in real life. So this was, even the disconnect of TV. But Matt Jones, when he had that seizure.
Oh my gosh! Yes,
and it was just like it was just like a switch was flipped, and he was gone for a few minutes, and like that honestly kind of woke me up. Like, oh, maybe that's something I'm supposed to, now I might recognize that more. I might have more awareness rather than somebody just tuning me out and be like, I guess they don't like Greg anymore.
Yeah, I don't think there was no tuning that out. That was scary.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're going to probably do a little blind ranking, by the way, Kevin, here in just a moment. And I know what blind ranking is because you're on TikTok.
Yes.
So that's not a bad thing, Kevin. I like it. You have, I believe, probably 2.5 million subscribers on TikTok right now.
Yeah.
I mean, after this gets out, of course.
Yes. Yes.
Where can people find you on TikTok, Kevin?
It's just my name, Kevin. I think it's Kevin _Hunsperger. I will tell you, Greg, you mentioned earlier my daughter and getting involved in that wrestling match. That video has 6.6 million views on it. So it is my most viral TikTok. So
see, there you go. Now, Greg, what you have to do for the Nerds United TikTok, put your kids in wrestling matches.
There you
I
go.
thought you were going to say, well, because this is more of a superhero one. I do have, so Rob, one of the twins, took, I had a polo that was down here. It was red, so it kind of looked like a cape, and he was putting it on him, and he was running around the kitchen saying that he was, as a 2.5-year-old, almost 3-year-old could say, he was trying to say that he was Super Grover, because, he watched Sesame Street.
Sure.
So he's running around, he's like, I'm Super Grover. I was like, you know what? That's cute enough to get a couple million clicks.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
I was going to say, I meant to say this in the beginning, and I'm very sincere here. Like if I go back and I listen to the Nerds United episodes, which I do on occasion because I'm just like that, but the number one, I think the number one I like most is the one we did many, many years ago where it was me, Kevin, and Greg, and we did a draft for, I believe, superheroes. It was, it was really good. Kevin, you were hilarious. I was really funny. Greg was also there.
I knew that's where you were going to.
Maybe this episode tops it. I don't know.
As soon as you started blowing smoke up Kevin's skirt, I'm like, he's going to bury me, some bitch.
Kevin, are you ready to blind rank wrestling moves?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and by the way, it's going to be 6 total, and we're going to go back and forth. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to start.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with one of my favorites. Now, don't let that influence you, Kevin. And for the benefit of our viewers, I do have pictures of all of these. So I'm going to start with the Scorpion Death Drop.
Okay.
Kevin?
We're just ranking this?
Yeah.
1 out of 6?
Yeah, 1 out of 6.
Well, no. Sorry. So blind rank is like you have to give it a rank of 1 to 6, and you don't know what's next. So okay.
So if I give this, which I will give this number 5.
Number 5, that's fair.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, I'm going to go.
Hurts my heart a little bit, but that's
I'm going to go with the Angle Slam.
Yeah, you're starting to wonder if maybe you should have bumped the Scorpion Death Drop up a little more.
I'll say 4.
4. Okay, that's fine.
I'm going to hit you from Chicago. The Doomsday Device.
Ooh. Man, one of the best tag team moves of all time.
True.
Scary as hell, if you don't do it right. I'm going to give this one a 2.
Okay.
By the way, see who's on the. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin. Does that look like that's Kurt Hennig on the receiving end of that?
It looks like it, but I don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't remember them ever wrestling with Mr. Perfect in the WWF, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go with one that might be your number 1. The 619.
Oh, man.
I like how.
And that's the thing. I don't know what else you guys have. So
exactly. That's the point.
What are we? We're down to what? 1 or 6?
You have 1, 3, or 6.
Oh, okay. I'll give this the 3.
Okay.
I'm banking on something big for number 1.
You never know.
I think this is going to be it because Kevin, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm a student of Kevin Hunsperger, and I know who your all-time favorite wrestler is. So we have the Iron Claw, and that is Mr. Perfect.
That is Mr. Perfect. You know what? As much as I like him, I do think the Claw is kind of I'm kind of with Conrad on the Claw move. So I am going to give this, and I'm going to regret this probably. I'm going to give this the 6.
Okay.
And hope that I'm hoping that Mike has my. I do have one move that is my all-time favorite, so I'm hoping that Mike has it.
Wait. Before Mike, what's your all-time favorite move, Kevin?
The DDT.
Okay.
Interesting.
I almost included that.
Now, I think if you like the DDT, you will like this one. And I call it the Kevin Hunsperger Clothesline of Doom.
Oh, my God. Oh, you got Oh, man. I would give that number 37.
It's 1 now. It's number 1
number
now.
1 now, though. Oh, man.
By the way, that couldn't have worked out better. So I'm like, it's not be as cool if he's like that. Just happens to be number 6. It's like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. I was hoping that. The DDT, the pedigree. Those are a couple of my favorites. So the Stone Cold Stunner.
I would say nobody had the stunner on there. Yeah, but there's so many moves though. So that's why
I thought about putting the stunner on. So we each picked 3. I thought about including the stunner. Thought about included, obviously like the tombstone, and thought about the DDT. Had I gone with the DDT, I was going to go with the Jake the Snake DDT.
Yeah, definitely. Because now it's just as they say on all the other podcasts, it's a transition move. It's not what it once was. So
Mick Foley had a really solid. I mean, Mick Foley's DDT, set up the mandible claw oftentimes, and was definitely more of a traditional finisher. But so many of the moves that we grew up on that were end of the match moves now, it's they have to do something else, something that's high risk, and like. Look, this isn't, earth-shattering news, but like high risk shortens careers. And
oh god, yeah.
I mean, look at like Arn Anderson didn't do anything high risk, and still, had his career cut short. What is it? Steve Austin, when he was in Japan and he tore his tricep, something like that.
Yeah,
but I don't think that was anything high risk. Maybe coming off a second rope or something.
And that's what they say a lot of times. It's not necessarily the high risk. It's just, that repetitive of doing it. And even if you don't end your career early, we look at Mick Foley now and how he's, hobbled and just, doesn't get around like he once did. And I think that's today's generation of wrestlers. A lot of them do take those high, not picking on anyone, but Darby Allin, for example. I mean, he's in his late 20s, but, the good thing with AEW is not good thing in that it minimizes the risk when they're not out as much, but they're also not getting those reps. There's got to be a happy medium. When we were young and watching wrestling, they were on the road close to, if not 300 days a year.
Right. Yeah.
And as Ric Flair says, twice on Sunday. So, and now, some of these guys are only wrestling once a week, if even. So, but there's got to be, like I said, a happy medium in there somewhere where they can still enjoy family time, but also get in there and perform and not, look bad doing it. So,
well, can we talk about why we hate AEW real quick?
Why we what?
Why we hate AEW? I'm gonna say this: 25 years.
Fast forward through this.
This is more, tongue in cheek. 25 years ago, we were watching Sting rappel down from the rafters safely, and as a guy who was probably in his mid 30s at the time, now poor AEW has a 60-plus-year-old man jumping off of balconies and things like that. Like they're trying to hurt him, but that's not right.
First of all, I don't think he's doing anything that he doesn't want to do.
Again, that's where I was being joking, but it's like, come on. I was gonna say something else, but
wait,
it's
Kevin. Do you not do you not watch or listen to AEW?
No, I cut cable a few years ago, so I don't watch the full length shows. Right. I have watched pay-per-views, and so I watch the high. That's how I watch Raw and SmackDown most of the time too. Now it's just those couple minute clips that are popping up on social media. But I tongue in cheek too, and I do give Chad a hard time about AEW because he is a more AEW guy than he is WWE guy. But I think they have a great product. You'll never find anything abundantly wrong with the wrestling. I think their storytelling still needs work, and I think a lot of fans are storyline driven, and they want to see those stories. It's you can have 8 incredible 5-star matches, but if there's not a reason to watch them other than it's a good match, then I think that the hardcore fans are going to be there, but those fans that are kind of flipping through and coming and going, you're not going to keep them if you don't give them a reason to come back every day.
Yeah, and you need to keep those fans.
I was going to ask another question, but I forgot what it was. I think I've said this before on Nerds United is, I used to watch wrestling every week. We used to go and Kevin, I don't know if I think you met Mike from Odin there. But like we used to get together at his house, watch Raw every week. We'd go, 6-7 times a year over to his house. We'd all either pitch in financially or, bring food for pay-per-views and things like that. And it's like, man, we all got older. I moved over here, everybody started having kids and like we stopped getting together. And that's where my wrestling started falling away because, and I realized I was like, the wrestling was good. I mean, like I've been to live shows and pay-per-views and things like that, Raws in St. Louis, but it was always about the company that I was with, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood there. So, so like, I just don't, I mean, I follow it. I know who, some of the main players are, but it's not, for me, that passion that it was back in the day. So.
No, I agree with that. And like I said, I did make the trip to LA this year to go to WrestleMania. Had it not been in LA and that's where Chad lives, I probably wouldn't have gone. He's giving me a hard time about going to Philadelphia, but I'm like, there's no way I'm going to Philadelphia next year. But
you go to Philadelphia, you're going to get shot.
Yeah, exactly. I had at one point said, number 10, that was our 10th WrestleMania, and I had said, 10's a nice round number, and we'll call it a day. But as they say in wrestling, never say never. So I haven't ruled out eventually doing another WrestleMania trip, but that gets expensive too, especially when you have kids and kids in college or kids about to go to college. So it becomes quite a trek, and luckily with it being in LA, stayed at Chad's place, so it was that part of it was free, but it's fun, and being there, and like you said, it's the company that you keep with it as well, even if it is Chad, but we have a good time.
And Chad's a cuddler too, so I know you were kept warm at night.
Yeah, he was big spoon, so it was fun.
Mike, what else you got? Anything else for our esteemed guest and friend?
No, this has been amazing.
It has been amazing.
I appreciate it. And I've never done StreamYard before, so this is something I'm going to have to check out.
We could actually do these live on our socials, but we don't because, it's late.
It's funny because somebody at work today actually brought up StreamYard, and when she said it, I had never heard of it, and this is a sign. I've heard about it twice today, so I need to investigate.
There you go.
I know it's not free.
Okay.
But I don't know what it costs.
Gotcha.
But we do appreciate you joining us here, Kevin.
Thank you for having me.
It's unfortunate that it comes on the same night that Carterville suffered the first L. But we know that those Lions bounce back because Lions are resilient creatures. I don't know that's falling apart. So you can find Kevin on most social medias just at my123cents. That includes TikTok, Instagram. No, not TikTok. Let me try that again. Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook, and it's just Kevin Hunsperger on TikTok. I don't know why he didn't. We got Nerds United somehow. I don't know why he didn't scoop up my 123cents. But regardless, Kevin's tremendous follow, great guy, and great insight into the world of professional wrestling from a lifetime as a fan and a number of years actually involved in the business. So check out his podcast here on jitterymonkey.com, the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network, and on YouTube, the tremendous videos that he puts up there as well. So again, thank you very much, Kevin, for joining us.
Guys.
We know it's late. We're all old men and we're all getting sleepy. So
thank you, fellas.
So for Kevin Hunsperger, our guest, Mike, our tremendous co-host of the year, I'm Greg Mahochko. This is Nerds United, a Jittery Monkey podcast, and we remind you each and every week to be kind
and rewind.
This is a production of the Jittery Monkey Podcast Network. For more jittery shenanigans, go to jitterymonkey.com.